Hello all, welcome to the PIPCAST 3000, a bi-weekly podcast where we talk about Fallout gaming news and other nerdy things that are going on likely over the past couple of weeks. This is bi-weekly, as I said, 10 a.m. Pacific, every other Sunday. I am Caedo Genesis. I'm joined by my co-host, Bad Company Sarge.
Hello there.
And we're here to shake things up. We're here to potentially become toxic YouTubers for the things that we decide to talk about this time. We were just perusing Reddit a little bit before we started recording, so we're under this impression that people see a lot of bad before they can see the good, I think. There's not that many toxic Fallout YouTubers as far as I can tell. Maybe it's just there was a post related to it, wondering like what YouTubers aren't toxic, and kind of, you just got to look a little bit. You got to change your view a little bit, like what details you're actually paying attention to, and you'll probably find at least a couple.
Let us know in the comments who the least toxic Fallout YouTubers are, and tell them to come on the PIPCAST.
And
don't
tell them also.
Don't just tell us, tell them. Or else
Yeah,
it doesn't happen.
and tell us also why it's just us.
Mm-hmm.
just me and Sarge.
Yep.
Are the only non-toxic
Only
Fallout
ones.
YouTubers. Yeah. So we got quite a few news things. Just kind of stuff happening. At least a couple of things happening in the Bethesda. Several things happening in the Bethesda space, actually. That's the majority of our news going on.
Yeah.
Also, even though we've been getting some good reception with the gamer articles and our takes on some of the stuff that are posted in, it's very fun, by the way. We don't want to make that the entirety of the podcast because I feel that's kind of, well, unfair to the gamer, and also feels like it's turning into more of a review thing rather than just like an actual conversation if we do it too much.
Yeah.
At least that's how it feels in my mind. Yep. So we do have an actual topic that we hijacked from Reddit instead.
Yeah, well, we're not picking on the gamer anymore. We've gone to Reddit to find people to pick on now.
And the overall subject for this episode is going to be, is 200 years enough time to rebuild? We saw two posts, likely that one was replying to another because they're like 4 days apart or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were back at least or up to a couple of weeks now at this point. But we thought it was, I was ready to rant about it, so that was probably a good sign that at least I had some things to say. I'd imagine you do too. I think you'd probably tell me no. No, Caedo, if you didn't. So there we go. That's kind of our vibe, to kind of what we're going for today. Mm-hmm. So think about your answer, and then maybe if you have something to contribute while we're talking about it or stuff like that, you can add it to the comments and maybe become a comment of the cast, because we have to get through those before we jump into the new stuff. But before that, thanks to our sponsor, me.
Oh,
tip of the day.
Man, you genuinely caught me out for a second there. I was like, oh damn, we got a sponsor? Oh.
That's actually our patrons, really.
Yeah, I suppose so.
More than anything. Thank you, patrons. We are very grateful for you and supporting us in what we do. Tip of the day. This one was very interesting, that I ended up going into Skyrim and testing myself. It's a Skyrim tip of the day. Jump in the forge to level up your destruction skill. I have no idea how this works, but it does. Have fun with that information.
My guess, or my theory, would be that the flames from the forge are the same as flames that you cast, and destruction works off of, like, damage dealt by spells, and for some reason the forge fires are registered as the same as a player casting the flame spell. That's my theory.
Yeah, I guess that's the closest to I'm sure somebody could go into the GEC or not the GEC, the creation kit. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
To figure out like what kind of effect it actually is and why it contributes to the skill that way. But I got a comment from somebody on the leveling guide saying that you could level like 4 skills off of it, just jumping up and down or sneaking around inside of the forge. Just constantly taking damage, leveling, sneak. And they included armor skills for some reason, but when I was testing it just to make sure, my armor skill was not going up at all because armor doesn't level off of magic. So even if it was like destruction like happening to yourself, it shouldn't level up your armor skills.
Sneak, restoration, and destruction though, all feasibly able to level up by crouch jumping in a forge. Yeah,
and in Riverwood was the suggested location from that comment as well. So this was one of those very rare occasions, and I made sure to like post about it in at least my Discord, that I learned something about Skyrim that I had no idea existed.
Yeah, same.
Because it's real hard to be surprised with Skyrim. I mean, the Anniversary Edition was a nice bit of stuff, but that was a lot largely content that was already out there that could be, more things could be learned about if we wanted to. So this jump in the forge trick, it's just really weird. Yep. And interesting. So enjoy that information. Use it however you will. So onward to the comment of the cast. I should say, Sarge, pick one.
Oh, I will do. We have a comment of the cast from Skull Ajaz. Not sure how I'm supposed to pronounce it.
Could be Ahas.
Ahas, possibly.
Could be a H sound with the J.
I have no idea. But they ask, what's your favorite kind of soup? And I had already replied to this on the PIPCAST, on the previous episode, where I replied saying, soup is evil, pottage is slightly less evil, gravy is amazing.
What is pottage? What is that?
Oh, it's medieval, like, stew style thing. It's what I grew up with. Hello, I'm a poor person from the Middle Ages. I eat pottage.
You're a time traveler? When were you gonna tell me?
Dude, I basically grew up in the Middle Ages, and pottage is something I eat tons, but you know how soup is, like, mostly liquid, and you get, like, the odd solid thing in it?
Mm-hmm.
Pottage is essentially the reverse of that, where it's mostly solid with the odd bit of liquid in, almost.
Okay.
Like, imagine big old chunks of potato and
so
meat
it's like
if you're one
chowder.
of the wealthy lot. Chowder.
Kind of.
Let me
chowder.
Google chowder.
Oh my god, Sarge.
I'm from the Middle Ages.
That's...
Okay, a lot thicker than chowder.
Okay. So like a mac and cheese, maybe. Mac and cheese thickness.
Man, like, I want to say no, but that's a lot closer, honestly.
The idealized mac and cheese, not the runny kind of mac and cheese, the idealized mac and cheese that they show in commercials. That's likely not even edible.
It's just, pottage is essentially very thick soup. Thick with like 5 C's after it.
This is the kind of highbrow conversation you can expect for the rest of the podcast.
I mean, I don't even have pottage on there as a thing that's good. I just say it's less evil than soup. Gravy's the thing I'm like holding up on a pedestal.
Gravy's bomb. I'm all about gravy too. Yeah. Gravy's so good.
Oh, good thick gravy.
That's one of the staples in Thanksgiving over here. So yeah, turkey and gravy and mashed potatoes and and then taking a really long nap, maybe a food coma. But I looked it up. The first thing that came to mind, I was like, tortilla soup. I really, really enjoy it. It's got a little zazz to it. It's got, as long as you don't leave it set for too long in your fridge, then it's still got a little bit of texture. It doesn't become like absolute mush. So it does have a shelf life, but I think that makes it makes it a little better too in my mind for soups.
I mean, the last time I had soup was when I cooked noodle soup when the power went out during the winter. That was cooking soup in the dark under a fire that I couldn't really control at all. and it was not particularly good.
Yeah, so would it be noodle soup for you then?
Noodle soup's better than standard soup because it's got noodles in. But it's basically a case of the soup is decreasing how good the noodles are while the noodles are bringing up how good the soup is.
Okay. The noodles make the soup for you, basically.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Okay. I mean, I expect noodles in my soup. Like, that's just something understood at this point most of the time. Because, like, when there's not noodles in it, I just call it stew because it's usually just got meat and veggies in it.
Okay.
So, what's the technical difference? I don't know. I don't know if we should keep going with
this has been a surprising level of soup talk. I think we should probably move on to what we actually claim this podcast to be, which is about gaming.
Yeah, let's do that. So, thank you for the comment, Skull Ahas or Aegis or however you say it. But we're gonna move on to the news stuff. What's this I see about Deathloop and behind the scenes, Sarge?
There was like a little behind the scenes article about Deathloop shared on Bethesda.net.
You don't say.
Yeah, and it's just a cool little thing. They talk about some of the songs that are thrown on. You get a few quotes and stuff. You get the reloading animation is from the Salt Bay GIF that didn't make it into the game, but that's a funny thing they tried doing. Yeah. It's just like a fun little article, and more than anything I wanted us to like link it just for anyone who's at all interested in behind the scenes of any video games, because it's nice to just see the stuff going, you know? Yeah.
Also, if you're a fan of Arcane in general, I think it's worth giving a look. I still haven't played Deathloop. It's on my, should play at some point.
Yeah.
Games. And they have references, obviously self-referential, like most, studios that have made a few games. This shows the Transstar Trencher, which is a weapon design based on Prey, one of their previous big games, which I enjoyed very much. I wouldn't call myself like a mega fan of Arcane Studios, but Prey is awesome. I couldn't really get into Dishonored, but Prey was pretty freaking cool. Not too many games where you can prop hunt with enemy AI and use it as some sort of tactical advantage while you're using other psychic powers. It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
And the bullet spread design they were talking about with the Transstar Trencher.
They make the pattern look like a mimic.
Yeah, they make it look like a mimic, and it's freaking great.
Yeah. It's nice to see just like sometimes even these tiny details are being worked on. It's the sort of thing that I think most people wouldn't like bring up in their minds when they think of what like a game dev is doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, they're making the pattern of the pellets when they come out be aligned in this very specific way. It's like, yeah, that was what they worked on for like half a week. Cool.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, something else that another developer like made available for people. This is a little more involved.
Oh yeah, this is a weird one.
The World of Darkness Unbound. What is this, Sarge?
Well, it's quite clearly make your own Vampire the Masquerade game.
What?
Yeah, so some of you will be aware of Vampire the Masquerade. It was a quite critically acclaimed RPG a while back. And I think recently it was a battle royale for a sequel, and they're still working on the main second. Or Vampire the Masquerade 2 is still being worked on, but it's going to be like the third game.
Yeah, Blood Hunt was the battle royale, I think.
Okay, yeah,
and just came out.
But yes. They're letting you make your own Vampire the Masquerade game. So the IP, it literally says here on this page, use Vampire the Masquerade IP and create your own world within it. In Unbound, you are responsible for the game you want to create and its contents, as long as you adhere to our licensing agreement and itch.io rules. So you have to like make the game and put it on itch.io, but you can make a Vampire the Masquerade game. Like, just there are like rules, and they get a bunch of the money for it. But if this is a thing you want to do, you can make a Vampire the Masquerade game and earn a little bit of cash from it.
Yeah, well, it says WOD Unbound developers retain up to 67% of monetized projects, which is, I think that's referring to the person who makes the fan project, right? Or the developer who makes the fan project?
I think so.
That might actually be a pretty decent cut for like what they're even allowing people to do. Because we kind of live in an era where some publishers and developers hold their IP very close, like annoyingly close to themselves. Nintendo is notorious for just completely shutting down fan projects that aren't even profiting.
Oh man, when I started out on YouTube, I remember it being the case where it was like, do not show anything Nintendo ever.
Do not upload anything Nintendo.
It'll be terrible.
Yeah, it's still kind of that too. Like they have their partnership program, but it's still bullcrap compared to all the other, most of the other ones. So, or creator program or whatever the heck it was called. A little too money minded, that Nintendo. But this is like the complete flip of that. They're just like, please use our IP. As long as you're adhering to our rules, you can get money out of it too. And I almost expected to see like some sort of NFT phrasing or something like that, just like injected in here. But this seems to be like a completely like want to.
There's already a dozen games out from this.
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy. Just like a bunch of indie devs who are like obviously fans of Vampire the Masquerade and the whole kind of world within it have made various different games with that IP.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I see someone's made a card game as well, which warms my heart a little.
Very nice, very nice.
It's cool.
It's really nice to see this kind of thing. This kind of like just opening up to the community and allowing them to do stuff with their IP without like all the extra fun red tape that you would run into otherwise. So good on them for making that a thing. Vampire the Masquerade obviously is not really something I'm super into, but we both recognize this as something that's pretty awesome.
I mean, I've got the first game downloaded.
Thanks for
in my Steam library. Because,
is it multiplayer?
The first game, no. It's a single player RPG about choices and consequences. Hear that, New Vegas fans?
Yeah,
it's big on choice, consequence, dialogue, all of that kind of stuff.
You could be a vampire courier.
I mean, one of the initial things you get us to do is go somewhere and pick up a package.
Yeah, vampire courier.
Yeah, main thing is
it's
like
basically New Vegas with vampires.
It's like, do you seduce your way in, fight your way in, sneak your way in? Those are the three main approaches to most things: fighting, sneaking, or seducing.
That sounds like immersive Sims also, because that's kind of a Deus Ex approach too.
But more
the word's not really seducing; it's more like talking. But seducing because you're a vampire. I get it. I understand. I'm sometimes knowledgeable and almost nothing. Anyway, man, something that's also a surprise, right? Is the new Tales from the Borderlands is coming this year.
Yeah. So
a sequel to the beloved, right?
Kind of, but
kind of.
I mean, it's a sequel in the same way that like Fallout 3 is a sequel to Fallout 2. It's different characters, different place, different story, kind of thing.
Oh, that's all confirmed?
Yeah, they say in the article, this time we're doing it to imagine all new characters and all new stories from the Borderlands. So soon we'll be announcing an all-new game set within the Borderlands universe and presented in that style of interactive fiction. So I wouldn't expect the same characters to come up. I mean, especially seeing as some of those characters were in Borderlands 3, so, like, have already moved on a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
But Tales from the Borderlands, the original one, was great. I believe it might be the first game I ever got like all achievements in. Because
Really?
it was a Telltale game. You go through the game and you get all achievements.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's pretty linear.
Yeah.
For getting things.
Yeah, that's how it sticks in my mind though, and it seems kind of cool. Obviously, Telltale games, the people who used to make them, are not making it for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, Gearbox is doing this in-house. The people who make Borderlands basically are making a Tales from the Borderlands, which will be interesting to see how that goes, because it's a different style of game for them, but obviously this is an IP they know very well, because it's theirs.
And they have all their resources available for that, too. There's no need for, like, I don't know, like, specific contractual, like, you can't use this character because this, and this kind of stuff. So, like, they don't have those limitations. So maybe it could be something truly, awesome because of that. Or or it could have a little too much of the Borderlands 3 vibe and not be that. Like Borderlands 3 did have moments.
Yeah.
But there were also some characters that are just really not good. This podcast wasn't going to be a Borderlands 3 rant though, so I am going to move on to unless you had something else, Sarge.
No, I mean, generally when I hear like all the Borderlands 3 ranting and stuff, I feel like it's often a case of Borderlands 2 just really struck gold.
Yeah.
And I don't think Borderlands 3 is as bad with the writing and stuff as people make it out to be. It's just kind of like,
Yeah.
And Borderlands 2 was like, oh my god, this is great, this is Handsome Jack, woo. And then Borderlands 3 obviously was never going to meet that, but it also wasn't great. So, by comparison, it makes it even worse.
It's the bar was very high.
Yeah.
Because of Handsome Jack, primarily. And like there was kind of no way. Like
no.
There was no way to reach that upper echelon of character.
It was all just a case of how far from the bar will it be.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, is it passable or is it something that's a little bit cringe? And it started going towards that cringe level quite a bit. So, but also I have to remind myself that, and I don't know if you guys have to as well, Borderlands has been a franchise that's been around for a very long time at this point, and a lot of us have grown up, and our idea of what's funny has also probably changed. Where like some of those jokes would have landed for me if I was, I don't know, in my early 20s or teens.
Yeah.
But now I'm in my mid 30s. Some of them don't work anymore.
Yeah, I was a teenager when I was first playing Borderlands.
I've heard so many fart jokes in my lifetime. I'm kind of tired of them at this point.
Yeah.
So, and they just can't stop. They can't stop making fart jokes because they're easy. I was just also reminded of that in like fart and butt jokes in like Pixar films are like a checkbox for them, and it drives me up a freaking wall.
Oh, man.
Because we went to see Sonic 2 a couple of days ago in the theater. We were the only people there.
Oh wow.
We had the entire theater to ourselves. It was great.
Nice and roomy.
And also this is a side thing, when we left the theater, nobody was around. Not a single soul. It was just me and Kite in a dark theater. Dark theater building. So it was the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. I think theaters are on their way out. It might be the case. Anywho, something else that's on its way out.
Hey! I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you. The Bethesda launcher is being sunsetted. Now is the time to migrate your Bethesda launcher account and your Bethesda library to Steam. That opened up a couple of days ago.
Yeah, 27th of April.
27th of April. So it would be, like 3 days ago or 4 days ago when this goes up. Anyway, make sure to do that if you have, especially if you have 76, because you want to maintain that progress. Make sure you move it all over to Steam because the Bethesda launcher is going away.
I will say the transfer process is super easy. We will have linked to the article, and literally the top link on there, you click it, you make sure your Steam account and Bethesda.net account is linked, which is just a standard login process. Then you press one button, and it will just take all the games you have from the Bethesda launcher to the Steam launcher. I've already done it. I've got a bunch of games on Steam now. I've reinstalled Morrowind because it's so tiny that I'm like, I may as well have this installed. And I have since uninstalled the Bethesda launcher because I don't need it anymore. I got the games on there. Although, I have lost one game.
Oh no.
There's one game which they decided not to transfer over, and it's The Elder Scrolls Legends.
Oh no.
I know. The game that I called the worst Elder Scrolls game ever made. They didn't transfer it to Steam.
Oh, that's such sad news.
Yeah. They put so many other games, like a bunch of the old Fallout and Elder Scrolls games are now on Steam, so you can like get them through there, which they weren't previously. But they didn't do it with Legends, and I don't know how all the Elder Scrolls Legends fans are coping with this. I was going to ask both of them, but I don't know where they are.
Yeah. I remember seeing somebody say in like one of the subreddits or something like that you get like Fallout 1 and 2, or the classic Fallouts. If you do transfer, I don't know how true that is, but
I'm pretty sure the classic Fallouts were given away on the Bethesda launcher a few different times.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't be surprised if someone just got them through there and then just realized they had them when the transfer happened, because it tells you what games transfer over. Just like
the frickin' the Game Pass launcher too. Like neither of these are particularly fun to try and navigate through your library. So you could just have
got the little thing on the side now, which
classic games
is a recent improvement for the installed. So
for the
Game Pass
part.
is getting better, which is nice to see, because the Bethesda launcher I don't think ever got an update which like changed the UI or anything.
No. Like I still don't know how you would like look at your actual full library. It was just like it felt messy.
It was all games installed. I think owned games was one on there, but it was clunky. But it's going away, so transfer your games over now, people.
Yep. Make sure to do that.
But of course, that means that when you want to play Starfield, you won't be able to get it through the Bethesda launcher.
Yeah. You'll be going through the regular means.
Yeah. Like Game Pass or Steam, I guess, will be the two things it's on. Yeah.
We got a new thing for Starfield. Another little tease situation.
Yeah.
Into the Starfield Episode 3, The Sound of Adventure, where it has audio director Mark Lampert and Starfield composer Einon Zur. Einon Zur, his version of the Fallout, the Fallout theme is goosebumps every time. Gotta mention that. They're talking about the kind of effect they want to convey, if I remember correctly. I saw this like a couple of days ago. Now the kind of feeling they want to convey with the new scope, I guess, of Starfield, because I believe this is the first. Yeah, we talked about this before. This is like the first where they're actually going to multiple locations, and they need to have kind of a different feel musically too. Yeah. No doubt, depending on where you are. So, we had little bits of that in like the Elder Scrolls, where you would go to another, like a Plane of Oblivion or something like that. But it was never. It was never to this level.
I mean, I've complained before about ambition. How a lot of Fallout, especially, you just get a lot of very similar sounding tracks going along. So I'm hoping that with more of a focus on, these are all significantly different places, there'll be significantly different tunes in the background.
Yeah, so I am excited for it. If you want more Starfield stuff, like this is another thing to look at. This is their slow trickle of information, probably before the showcase that we're going to mention in the next thing.
There is one final thing I do want to bring up about this video though, which is something that I'm mixed feelings about, because it's mentioned at one point that they don't want you to hear the music but feel it. And that simultaneously, for me, is a red flag and a "oh yes" moment. Because that could either be...
you don't like atmospheric tracks.
It's not that I don't like atmospheric tracks. It's that scoring to not be able to hear it is something that happens a lot. And it's the safe way to do it. There's an amazing video I recommend everyone watch by Every Frame a Painting, which is the Marvel Symphonic Universe. And it was created like a good decade and a half ago now or something, probably, because time keeps going on and we cannot stop it. But he talks in that about how a lot of the early Marvel movies were kind of scored to just be very plain. And he went and interviewed, like, just people passing by, asking them, like, hey, can you hum this theme? Can you hum, like, the James Bond tune? Can you hum anything from Star Wars? Okay, now can you hum a track from the Marvel movies? And no one could, because it's all just forgettable and just very plain and safe background music.
Yeah.
And that's something that can happen a lot in games as well, where if you're not directly listening to it, you don't really know how any of the tunes go. And the way it was said, how you want to feel it and don't want to hear it, I was a bit like, well, it could be like that. But also, by the fact that he said, want you to feel it, it could be emotive music, which I'm all for, because I think that music in the background should give you a sense of what the place feels like. You're in an area with the specific music, and it should reflect the place you're in. I always and will never shut up about it, and will always go on about Final Fantasy IX, the greatest game ever made, and how like each area has its own soundtrack, and it fits so well. Like Burmacia has quite a sad, solemn place because it's the city of rain and it's just been destroyed by war.
I'm sorry, can you pronounce that again really quick?
Burmacia. How do you pronounce it?
Burmecia?
Burmecia. Honestly, I'm fine with either of them. Final Fantasy IX has like no voice acting, so all the fans say names differently. It's great.
That's true.
Yeah. But then like the village of Dali? Are we good with Dali? Dali?
I don't remember that location.
Okay. That location is quite a calm kind of village overall, and it's got basically the point I'm going is there's a lot of fitting tracks, and if you have a track which reflects the feeling and the emotion that's evoked by the location, then that'll be great. But if you're scoring just to kind of be in the background and not have people listening to it, that's when I'm not a big fan of it. And
I feel like
the way
I'm
it was
having the worst like memory issue right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
What describe it? What is I'm sorry. This is gonna be a side thing. What is Dolly? What's its the characters there?
It's where the Black Mages are being formed before they go to Castle Alexandria. It's the place you first encounter after passing through the ice cavern. You fight Black Waltz 2 there, and then you take the airship to Lindblom or Lindblom, depending on the translation, from that place. It's like real early game location.
Yeah, I think I just haven't played Final Fantasy IX in too long.
To be fair, it's a pretty minor location. It's not like a huge spectacle. It's literally a tiny little village. But the scoring of it fits so well, because it is quite a peaceful little calm, soothing track, even though there's something sinister hidden underneath.
Yeah, and also if Black Waltz is a descriptor, like I just think about Black Waltz and how badass he is. So
you're thinking of Black Waltz number 3, aren't you? The
probably
Lightning one. There's 3 of them, Caedo. Why don't you remember every detail about the greatest game ever?
I know there's 3 of them, but like the Black Waltz are memorable because you know they're all like really cool black mages.
So badass. Yeah. But anyway, the entire point I was just making is I hope the music's good.
There we go. We brought it back. We hope the music's good. I
have strong opinions about this. And people do not like my strong opinions about this, I can tell you that.
Yep.
Oh.
That's okay. You can be wrong, Sarge.
Oh, no, I can't. I'm always right.
Sometimes you can be wrong, and it's okay. I'm ready to be wrong about more things. So
All right.
let's talk about our topic. No, wait, no.
No. We've got the big news.
Sorry.
The actual, probably most important news we should tell people about.
The stuff we already spoiled, that I already spoiled and then forgot about, because I got caught up in Final Fantasy IX, whether Dahlia was a real place or my imagination. Okay, so June 12th is the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase, because remember, we don't have E3 this year.
E3.
Or maybe ever at this point. So instead, June 12th is when Xbox is doing their big showcase, and obviously Bethesda is going to have probably a good sizable chunk of that, because Bethesda has usually a lot to show when they decide to go for a show.
Yep.
This is Starfield year, so I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of Starfield.
Yeah. I think most people are expecting this date to be when we get Starfield gameplay. That seems to be like the big thing, which people are like, oh, okay, June 12th, you say. Cool.
I know we say it enough too, but man, I'm so glad they reserve themselves until like right before they release a game. So glad. They don't do this. The Cyberpunk thing. Don't do the Cyberpunk thing. Do not do that.
Yeah. Promise a little bit.
Don't draw it out for like multiple years.
Yeah.
It's gross.
I just noticed a slight error where they in this article, it starts out saying June 12th and then switches to Sunday, June 13th, which isn't a Sunday.
What?
But that was from oh no, that was from last year. They've got last year's article on the
weird
end of this article.
Why would that still even be like
I don't know.
To? I'm very confused.
That's very weird.
Yeah, but there's links to all, even a TikTok for Xbox like in this article, so you could it's viewing however you want.
You can watch the presentation on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, or TikTok.
Yeah. Also worth mentioning that there's two Twitch accounts here, the Twitch Xbox and Twitch Xbox ASL, which is, as far as I know, American Sign Language. So if you are, deaf, you can also enjoy the presentation, which is lovely.
Something else I think that is worth pointing out is that Sunday, June 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That ringing any bells for you, Caedo?
That's PIPCAST time.
That's free PIPCAST from now. The exact time a PIPCAST would normally go out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, we may reschedule for this, or we may just see what happens. That's something we'll have to think about. It's literally like...
I think like the following, like the Monday right after would probably be ideal. just thinking about it right now, because you just you just reminded me. Probably something like that, or we could do like a live reaction. That'd be weird.
We could. I thought about that. That's something we'll figure out though. We still got a little over a month, but yeah, Sunday, June 12th. We will remind you again closer to the date, I'm sure. But there's going to be lots of news, and I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, Sarge, you live stream more than I do too. I only live stream on more than I do, but not too often. I only live stream on like Discord when I feel like doing editing with an audience of like 2 or 3 people.
Yep. I live stream on YouTube to tens of people.
Yeah. So many.
Yes.
I think we're explaining a little too much as to why we don't stream very much. Because there's the time spent is only has so many viewers. So yeah, that I'm excited for Starfield, man.
Yeah, same.
I want more content to make. I want more content. I mean, I have some things to make at this point, but I'm having a real hard time being motivated to do it. Okay, subject time, topic time. I don't know why I'm interchanging those words so much today.
It's fine.
Is 200 years. Sarge, let me ask you something. I mean, let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
200 years. Fallout happened. The bombs happened in 2077, right?
Yes.
That's when they happen.
October 2077.
Yes. Excluding Fallout 4 pepperoni or Fallout 5 pepperoni.
Yep. The greatest game ever not made.
Right. The latest Fallout game in the timeline is 2287. That is
Yes.
210 years after the bombs dropped. Do you think that after 200 years, not enough rebuilding has happened?
Maybe.
That's our podcast.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you in a fortnight. Well, there's a lot to take into account here.
Okay.
I think first off, we should mention that the reason we're doing this, as mentioned at the start, is due to a pair of Reddit posts, one of which is titled, "I don't appreciate that everybody lives in ruins 200 years after the bombs," or after the bomb.
Which is untrue.
Yeah. But they're kind of making the point that, like, things should be more built up, it's been 200 years. And then the other post is, no, 200 years is not enough to rebuild. And they have done a massive essay on why they think 200 years is not enough and things wouldn't be rebuilt.
I'm still really convinced, since they're chronologically, one is after the other. Oh, wait, no. Hold on.
Yes.
Yeah, chronologically, one... I forgot how to do math. Okay.
Yep. The no 200 years post comes 4 days after the 200 years is like so long.
It looks like they were stewing on it for a little while.
Yeah. I will say the no 200 years one reads very much like, how has everyone got this wrong? Let me explain why I am kind of.
You're all so stupid.
Theme to it all.
I'm a toxic YouTuber.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I'm not. I said I wasn't gonna bash these two posts because they did like spark a good subject.
Yeah, but the first one very much feels like a more casual bring up thing. It's 3 very short paragraphs, and then the next one is edited multiple times. While a lot more upvotes, it's only 78% upvoted versus the 93% upvoted, and it's like 20-30 paragraphs about like why they believe it to be so. There's a lot being said here. So now we're going to weigh in with the correct opinions.
100% correct. Like no holes whatsoever in our argument.
Nope.
It's just gonna be matter of fact. Right? That's a ultra lie. So we already went over the timeline. 200, as far as we go, is 210 years after the bombs fall.
Although the shortest time is only 25 years for Fallout 76.
Yes.
Which is... We're both older than that.
Yes.
Which means, like, if we left Vault 76, we would have been born before the Great War.
Yep.
Which is weird.
Very weird.
Maximum timeline so far goes to 210 years, though.
Yeah. You brought up vaults, so I think that's a good starting point.
All right.
I think that's a good starting point. So vaults existed to preserve on the outside the public face, to preserve humanity. But obviously,
and to be fair, some of them were designed just to preserve humanity.
Yes.
And
Even
the
some
other
of the sick experiments were.
99%.
Like there's a vault with eugenics. Yeah, it's gonna preserve humanity, but it's in the like most messed up way possible. So that can be factored in. The remainder of society after the bombs dropped is in utter ruins, and you can imagine that once you get bombed to the Stone Age, that it's pretty difficult to get any improvement, especially if you're not skilled in anything in particular. Like if you're not skilled in making, working on electronics, or if you're unable to like make even the most basic of tools. Like obviously a lot of people would just die out shortly after, even because they wouldn't have those skills. Vaults a lot of the time were meant to retain those people for when those vaults opened, and then they're able to use that knowledge in a less hostile hellscape.
Yes. I mean, Vault 76 would be the key example of that.
Yeah.
Because, like, when you're leaving, it's all various things of, oh, hey, this is how you build up. Let's rebuild civilization.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much themed around that kind of a goal.
And vaults were designed to be opened at varying times after the Great War as well. Some of which opening insanely early. I think Vault 12 was one of them. Supposedly the vault that Harold came from. I can't remember quite off the top of my head, but it was a very short time that it was opened, and like they were just, you know, overexposed to the wasteland and had to like crawl to survive, crawl around to survive and scavenge and stuff, and get highly irradiated. But I think that is one of the big factors as to why it has taken so long to rebuild. If we're still working in the sense of, or in universe of Fallout, realistically, it probably wouldn't take as much time, but in the suspension of disbelief for stuff.
I mean, on the suspension of disbelief side of things, I do want to bring up the point as well that if you do go ultra realistic onto what realistically would have happened, total apocalypse, end of everything, all human life.
Everyone
gone.
would be dead.
Like, that's it. There is no more sunlight. The world is just covered in ash. It's not just the nukes, because you then have every power plant just melting down, because without the people to cool the rods off, that's ended.
Yep.
It's every single other dangerous area of the world just becomes more dangerous. All life dies. So it wouldn't be like, oh look, it's a Yaguai mutated thing. No, it's dead. It's dead along with everything else.
Yep.
There is no sunlight.
And
everything dies.
And realistically, Geiger counters are not standard issue for most households. So you could be in a highly irradiated area and you wouldn't know until about an hour later. And then it would be too late. You would be dead. Either slow and incredibly painful, or very quickly.
Yeah, and incredibly painful.
Yeah.
So no matter what, we have to go for not real life level of realism.
Yes, we have to go into the realm of fiction, otherwise it stops being fun.
Yeah, it's just, oh man, life's sad.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah.
So vaults, I wanted to factor in vaults as one of the big reasons as to why society hasn't rebooted, because a lot of the time too, like even as far back as the first Fallout game, Vault 13, they want to stay in the vault as long as possible. Like they are so like xenophobic at that point that
safe for living underground,
and safe. It's safer as long as they have a working water chip.
Yep.
Which they send one person out to do and then kick them out afterwards. Spoilers. Because you have too much influence on the rest of the vault wanting to leave as well.
Yeah.
But the de facto, overseer is just like, we are staying here because this is the safest place to be, especially after you mentioned, oh, there's a mutant army too. Great. I'm staying indoors.
Yeah.
If we're going back to being realistic, I would too.
Yep.
I don't want to get ripped in half by the Hulk. Thanks.
Yeah.
I would rather not. So that's one thing. Also, after so many points, like some of the vaults, again, going back to vaults, were given the Garden of Eden creation kit, or the GEC, which is a restarting the environment, at least the immediate environment, to be able to have crops, basically making a space of land livable, at least from what I imagine they kind of do. We've talked about before that the GEC is kind of a MacGuffin for a lot of things. Water purification and stuff like that. Just things that allow you to function and live without ingesting so much radiation or absorbing so much radiation at a time.
Yeah, it just magically makes everything nice and not subject to the conditions of the world.
Yeah. I don't know what a good example of that is. Some kind of thing that like just uncorrupts a section of things.
It's just magic.
That's
all it is.
It's Fallout magic. But when we're talking about like civilization and restarting civilization, there's also when we were talking about our ruined cities being overused and stuff like that, I think we did bring up the idea that when something is already there and you don't have to work as hard to like have a functioning shelter, you'd probably do that instead. And it's kind of that, I feel like it's kind of that same direction that people would go, is like, if there's, in Fallout 4's example, if there's a perfectly, intact baseball stadium that already has walls that exist and like checkpoints and stuff like that, and you just have to reinforce it a little bit, of course you're gonna use that as your city. I think that good neighbor also is like a good walled in community where they only needed to do so much to keep it,
most of the buildings there are largely intact, so it was create a perimeter, and that's it, you're done.
And to a certain degree, like even in New Vegas, like places are just refurbished and made to function. So but obviously New Vegas wasn't the center of a nuclear blast, so it is a lot more put together than other ruins, like say the Capital Wasteland.
Yeah, I think you've kind of stepped on quite a good point there as well, which is people seem to have very different views about how nuked the landscape should be.
Yeah.
Because, like, New Vegas, it's like, oh, it's fine, and there's a bit of an explanation of, oh, well, there were defenses to stop it. But then you get, like, 76, where, despite the fact that now there's nukes going off all the time, it wasn't really targeted because it's more of a countryside area.
They're low yield, they don't last very long.
Yeah. But we even see the Capitol, which surely must have been a huge target. And we see it just how many years after? Like, exactly 200 years after for the Capitol. We get to see it.
Oh, wow,
and, and it's not in that bad a shape, considering it would have been a key target in being nuked.
I guess that's fairly accurate. Like, still, like it's
not razed to the ground.
It was just carpet bombed pretty hard, though. It looked like
it looks more like a war zone than a nothingness because it was obliterated.
Yeah,
it's bad, but it's not completely gone. And that would have been like so heavily nuked.
I was mildly like, after we got the kind of reworked radiation system in Fallout 4, which really made it good. In my mind, there wasn't enough radiation in Fallout 3. Like there didn't seem to be enough locations with the radiation threat. Which kind of bummed me out because like if anything were irradiated, around the Capitol building would probably be the most. And I think that would make it really interesting, especially if you had like some of the best stuff there. Like you have one of the like so many behemoths existing inside the Capitol itself, in the dome, just fighting a whole bunch of Talon Company mercs, and they're getting utterly wrecked, by the way. I think that would have been like a cool, like it is still really cool centerpiece, but I think adding radiation, like constant radiation on top of that, even to a small degree, because it is 200 years later, like I think that would be so cool.
I mean, I already have plans.
You already have plans.
But yeah, my main point I'm making here, though, is that despite it being nuked, the world really isn't that destroyed. And I mean, the post of no 200 years is not enough to rebuild is kind of making the point. It says here, this ignores what happened in Fallout. Society didn't just collapse, it was actively destroyed. The Great War did more than just destroy some cities, it changed the landscape of the world itself.
Yeah.
And while there is some truth to that, I feel like this person is imagining what a lot of people imagine, which is, oh, a nuclear apocalypse, everything just completely wrecked beyond belief. Where, in the reality of the Fallout games, where we see firsthand, a lot of places aren't as destroyed as nuclear apocalypse would lead you to believe.
Yeah.
Things are surprisingly well intact,
like maybe they're thinking a lot more along the lines of maybe Mad Max, where it's just you're in an ocean bed that is now a desert, like that level of like nothing.
Yeah. Whereas in the reality of the Fallout games, a lot of stuff is still intact. So you also don't, as you mentioned, you don't need to rebuild so much because a lot of the stuff is still there. A lot of stuff is still built up, including like big important structures. Yeah.
And if you have a strategic not strategic advantage, an easy way of putting up defenses as quickly as possible once you've gathered enough people to make a settlement, kind of like Rivet City or I guess Diamond City was already used as an example.
Yeah.
Even the Strip, even though like Mr. House was still kind of there already, like getting the local tribes together and like forming a society. Why wouldn't you? Because you would. You absolutely would. You know, as long as there's a leadership. And there's also, oh my God, that's a thing too. Also somebody who gets who appoints themselves leader or is appointed by other people. Like there's going to be friction there too, which can cause like a problem in plans, make it take longer to make a functioning settlement or society that way.
Yeah. Well, I think on the societal side of things as well, New Vegas is quite a great example. Because in that game, a lot of places are referred to as tribes, and it's like the chairmen are a tribe. But we look back at Fallout 1 and 2, at tribals in that, and they are like, here is spear, here is loincloth. Very basic civilization.
Legit Stone Age.
Yeah, and we see civilization like catching back up from the people who were in the basic Stone Age stuff to finding others who have super advanced technology, because this isn't the past, it is the future. So the people who have the advanced technology and were able to keep hold of that knowledge can bring everyone else kind of up to speed to an extent, even without meaning to do so. And we see like a huge increase in the speed of things going from Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age. Like so much of it is skipped over because you go from nothing to, oh, I've picked up a laser.
Yeah.
And that's just a change that happens in a day. Which is why we see society just zoom past, and why it doesn't take so long to rebuild, because we don't have to go through all of the trial and error. The stuff already exists. It's like the whole thing where you see in so many like movies and TV shows, a time traveler goes back like way in the past and puts down a future object, and when they come back, civilization's like super advanced because of it.
Oh man, I'm glad you brought up the monolith thing, because I think that's a Space Odyssey thing. I can't remember. But uplifting Mass Effect did this, or covered this subject.
It's basically a trope in sci-fi now. I feel.
uplifting the tribal or primitive societies too early can have disastrous effects.
Yeah,
that's kind of what the Mass Effect approach was anyway. But I was going to, what was I gonna bring up? Because you brought up a good point, and then I lost mine.
Oh dear. Man, I was on such a roll. Come on, I thought you were bouncing off. You're just like, give me the baton, and then you run off the edge of a cliff. Oh no.
Yeah, I did. I'm off the cliff, and I'm still falling. Leadership, developing society, GEC. We should use an example, also the NCR, which took, once there was a good leader in place, or a good leadership, a chain, not really a chain, it's like two people in the same family basically jump-started what the NCR became. Yeah. And that was Aradesh of Shady Sands, and then his daughter, Tandy, became the first president of the NCR. And she was president, more like a dictator, for like several decades, a large chunk of her life, in fact. But you can see when you go from Fallout 1 to Fallout 2, because that is the family legacy Fallout, as it were, because you have the Chosen One, which is the grandchild of the Vault Dweller, and you have Tandy, who is the daughter of Eridash. I think that's actually kind of cool. I didn't really think about it that way until I talked it out. NCR looks like a fully functioning city when you arrive. They have the rules, they have the regulations, they have a board out front that's like the 10 commandments of don't do this or we'll shoot you. Like, and their police force is, I mean, it's still kind of a police state situation, so like you can really mess up pretty easily. But you also have Vault City, which is another like majorly advanced, because they did use their GEC city, fully functioning, but you know, they have their own issues with like having slaves and servants and other bigotry related things, because they're more of a closed community as opposed to the NCR, which is a much more open community that is okay with, you know, making deals with outsiders. I think it was the Brotherhood of Steel that actually helped the NCR become more advanced, which is why they're kind of on similar footing as Vault City. So it is possible. I think that was maybe the thing I was trying to drive at, is it is possible to become like a more civilized city situation. But at the same time, you don't always have that level of specialists. Vault City had a vault, it was a control vault that Vault City surrounds. Like, they had the brightest minds to make a functioning city, which is why they were able to. Whereas the NCR, they were, you know, kind of did they use a GEC? I don't remember if Vault 15 had one, like, or not.
Just thinking back to Shady Sands, it does not look like a GEC place. It's
they came from Vault 15 and were able to somehow work the land because they were more knowledgeable in such things. They were still originally Vault Dwellers, which could have had a huge benefit. Well, did have a huge benefit in their becoming more
training,
advanced.
passed down knowledge, that kind of stuff. They had a foot up. They didn't have magic.
Yeah. But I think, and then there's the theme I wanted to get into. I was gonna like go off of something you were saying, but then I forgot. That's where I was. That's where I was going. Okay, cool. I'm there. War never changes. The theme of basically every Fallout game is there's always going to be some sort of conflict. Generally a large one that is also preventing people from advancing, or preventing different communities from advancing. Obviously in Fallout 1, you have the Super Mutant Army and the Master that are very good at like oppressing, you know, the people that exist there. Necropolis gets completely wiped out. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. So that's another big factor that well, first makes Fallout pretty, you know, cool as a series, is because you do have, you know, the conflict as well as, you know, societies coming up from the dust.
I mean, every single game is about like, here's this big threat that's gonna wipe out tons of stuff. And sometimes the big threat is you. Looking at you, Fallout 4 and 76. Let's nuke it. Fallout 3 also, if you blow up Megaton. That can, at least the main story of Fallout 3, you're the good guy. Main story of Fallout 4 and 76, you really are just killing a lot of people. And it's like, well, I'm right because I decided this faction is one I morally agree with.
Excuse me, Abraham, or not Abraham, what was his name? The freaking the psycho dude with at Minefield. I forgot what his name was.
Oh, I know who you're on about, but yeah, I can't think of his name.
It's like, I'm sorry, I have to kill you. I need to do this for Moira.
Yep.
Or you just grab a landmine somewhere else and just give her one. I've done that a few times, I think. I'm falling down the cliff sill, so
that's fine. I'm gonna throw a rope at you. I do think there is a big point there about like the conflict kind of preventing the extra build-up, because I feel like most of our points so far have leaned more towards like, no, things will be built up a lot, but then the constant conflict that keeps on happening, where you have these power struggles with different factions always trying to get in charge, it does lead to even more destruction, which prevents it from being fully built up and realized like modern civilization would be, where you've got nice happy settlements and everyone just getting along and it's all peaceful and stuff for the most part. It's like, no, the world of Fallout is one defined by war, and because the war never ends, it means you can never be fully built up. Settlements will get destroyed if you become a big enough threat, and if you are big enough to be a challenge for people, they'll take you out, they'll kill you. And this may or may not be the theme of my entire Fallout game I've been writing over on my channel.
Yeah.
See, I get what the themes are, all of you commenters being like, oh, I like 76, so you must not understand what a Fallout game is.
I don't even know. You get... Yeah, here's a good example. Big Town. Big Town is actually a great example of this, because not only are they under constant threat from mutants just raiding them and like taking them prisoner and probably eating them or dipping them, but they're also limited in their knowledge because it was just a bunch of kids from Little Lamplight that once they hit the age of maturity, whatever that 18, I guess, then they get pushed out and sent to Big Town, because once you become an adult, you become like freaking corrupt and stupid. Which is true.
Yes, I agree.
You lose your innocence, and then your brain is whack, and then you have to leave.
I do think Big Town, the fact it is like such a poorly defended settlement, and it's literally just like the closest set of buildings to them that was still mostly intact is what they went for.
Yeah, I just like the introduction. You just walked up to the gate. He was like, "Whoa, whoa, wait a minute!" Like that's how he greets everyone.
Hold up, please don't come and attack us.
But they've kind of got defenses, but like when you arrive too, they need help, kind of. I mean that's just gamifying, their settlement too.
Yeah, but it's a good example of what happens when you don't have any of the specialists that you need. You don't have a great leader or anything. It's people just trying to do what they can with whatever's left over.
You had a great leader, but he kicked you out. But they also rotate, so like McCready, like he, even though he was a butt, he also was a fairly, from what I could tell, good leader in I mean, he survived, obviously. A good leader in Little Lamplight. So I think that's awesome. I wonder if there's any other settlements that fit into that. That I can think, like smaller ones that aren't quite getting there.
Republic of Dave.
Republic of Dave.
That's an example
one.
of a leader that's just not good enough, but thinks they are, and they've managed to get to that point, but they just don't have the leadership capabilities to take it any further.
Yeah, and it's run as a monarchy. Kind of.
Maybe.
I think they switch.
You get a vote, so it's
democracy.
Democracy.
With air quotes. I heard your air quotes.
Yep. Republic of Dave. I love how when I'm typing Republic of Dave into Google, I'm getting so many real-world locations instead.
His dad, I think his dad was a monarch, and then he killed him, I guess.
In earlier years, it was known as the Kingdom of Tom.
Yes. There we go.
There we go. Yeah. And apparently over the past 2 centuries, a tiny plot of land has been known as the Kingdom of Larry, the Republic of Stevie Ray, Billy's Vania, the New Republic of Stevie Ray, and most recently Kingdom of Tom after Dave's father.
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, that's... that's great.
I think it would be like super hilarious if that was the basis of the Legion. Like their ideas for the Legion was just like somebody who's like just so, I mean, theming for old world blues too. I think that'd be kind of hilarious. Man, that's tinfoil hat talk though, so I'm not gonna try to go too far on that one. Let's see, Canterbury Commons. That one,
I remember. I don't remember stuff about it because it's just a place where you meet the Mechanist and the Antagonizer.
Yeah, but they're the ones supposedly protecting. Well, the Mechanist anyway is the one supposedly protecting the town.
Yeah.
He has high-tech robots that'll just utterly ruin anything that comes by that's hostile, unless it's the antagonist where they monologue at each other until they get bored. So, but also being a trade, a hub for the trade caravans, I think that may have a positive effect because obviously the trade caravans, interact with so many different peoples.
Yeah, I think you've picked a good example of like a small but effective town.
Yeah,
like it's not at the Republic of Dave or big town level of things where it's clearly trash. It's working perfectly fine. It's not got itself into a point where it's a specific danger, although it does still have the slight war problem between the Antagonizer and Mechanist,
right?
Who have decided to make it their battleground.
Again, gamification. you gotta do something when you arrive.
It's still an example of an area that's subject to war, which will help stop its development, because people aren't going to want to come and live there when all this battle's coming on. So even though it's doing well, it's not able to expand further due to this problem.
Mm-hmm. Very, very astute.
A fun note as well, it's where Moira Brown's from. Really? Yeah.
I skip most of her dialogue now because I can't stand her.
But she's the greatest character in all of Fallout.
Nope. I disagree.
What? Man. Poor Moira.
She was, if she had like any hint of an evil trait to her, she would have been on my worst NPCs list.
Wow. I mean, we already know that's wrong though, because you included Dogmate.
I don't like Moira, so I included Sierra instead because she's a freaking psychopath. Had to pick one person who's hopped up on
very
themselves
different opinions about the worst
Nuka-Cola.
NPCs.
We do. You got to make your own list. And then make sure you plug mine
Not
when you
another
do.
list. I don't know if I can do one. I'm still getting comments on my cannibal one from people wondering why it isn't a serious list.
Because that's
genuinely.
the joke.
But people... I'm going to read out the most recent comment. I'm going to do it, because I have to. I'm going to read out the title of the video as well. Okay, so... yeah, the title of the video is actually mentioned in the comment. We got this person saying, why the title is Top 10 Worst Perks in Fallout, brackets, Fallout 3, 4, 76 New Vegas, if you only talked about the cannibal perk, no others. And, genuinely, I don't know how people click on a video that's like, Top 10 Worst Perks in Fallout 3, 4, 76 New Vegas as a thing, and are like, well, this must be super serious and helpful information about the 10 worst perks spread across 4 games.
I don't know.
Like, a video like that could not provide actual helpful information.
Sometimes people like to take it literally.
But I have updated the title now, to be fair. So in brackets in all caps, I've got super serious.
Oh.
Because the comment actually told me to rename it to, like, Cannibal Perks in Fallout 3, 4, 76 New Vegas, and I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's... God, I want to be able to have a joke with people.
That's not
and have
posing
them
a question
it.
to the viewer. That'll like reduce your clicks if you do that too.
Yeah, like that video is done.
They don't understand how the game works.
They don't.
That's okay. That's part of the magic. Just for the rest of you at home, we're talking about SEO. It's really exciting.
Yeah, sorry about this tangent. It's entirely my fault. I can't even remember what brought it up, but I'm angry now. All right, let's. I feel like we're at the wrapping up point for this topic, honestly. because
You think so?
we've if you've got more to say, then go for it. But I feel like we've hit a nice balance between here's factors that promote the rebuilding of a place, here's why things aren't as destroyed as we think they should be, but here's why the rebuilding does get kind of capped off.
Yeah. Another reason is population control. Like that's a pretty regular thing, especially in the vaults, where you only have Fallout Shelter has that. Like you have a limit on how many dwellers you can have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending
I feel like
on
that
the
goes
space,
even more into the gameplay side of things.
Right, but depending on the space available, you can only have so many dwellers there.
It's
you
up
have
to
too
like
many,
100, I think.
Yeah, you have too many people in one place. You can't supply them with enough food. Then there's a downfall. There's some city builder vibes that I'm talking about here too.
Yeah, you do need to like build up the place you're in to provide enough for all the people living there.
Yeah.
Which
Or have a means to just generally have a means to supply your people with the enough food and water that'll keep them alive.
Yeah. And if you can build like big cities with tons of farms and stuff, you can get a lot more people and a lot of people breeding, and all of that stuff, and the numbers increase over time. But if those farms get raided and destroyed and there's not enough food, then there's a lot of death, and the numbers do go back down.
Yeah.
And while everything is fine and dandy, it's a lot easier for the population to go up. And when things are in huge turmoil, it's a lot easier for the population to go down.
Yeah. We've been talking about a lot of the Fallout 3 ones because I think those are like pretty good, like varying degrees of like levels of society, if they're leveling up or not. Tenpenny Tower, I think, is a weird one. A little bit of a weird one. First of all, that the entire tower is still intact, which is funny and interesting, but makes a good landmark. But how you interact with them kind of implies that they're like an upper class society that only allows certain people inside. Obviously, you see the whole situation with the ghouls like as soon as you arrive.
Yeah.
Tower full of bigots and all that stuff. But it seems like they're only able to function because they understand trade and interacting with the wasteland in that way. Like the caravans coming through and stuff like that. Because I don't know, like I don't see crops anywhere. No. At least, or maybe there could be like in the tiny outlets, but it will only be so much anyway. And the surrounding locations are all kind of just busted up and probably looted out for the most part. They have a lot of the stuff that other stuff that is required, like power, is contained within the tower itself. That one is a bit strange. Like how.
Okay, I've ended up going to a wiki page which explains a bit more of it.
Oh, good.
About how Alistair Tenpenny like pays to get it like built up by all the people who are guarding it and that kind of stuff. Because he is described as an entrepreneur from England.
Yes, an entrepreneur.
That's it. A bit of a vague thing for that.
From England? I'm sorry.
From England, yep. It says Alistair Tenpenny's apparently from England.
He's got a Broadway accent. That is, I don't think that's
I was not aware of him being English.
That's funny.
That's news to me. But it says here that, once it's all built up, water in the tower was not irradiated, apparently. And they were able to begin siphoning electricity from a still working underground DC metro system.
Right.
So they've got a little bit of self-sufficiency. And it says, Tenpenny would only let in traders or those with enough caps, and certainly no ghouls. So he's very much he's got like this big, easily defensible, fancy, luxurious place, and it's like, hey, if you're someone else who's made a lot of money, you can pay a lot of money to live here. And that's kind of how he's obviously getting everything still in, because he's got a whole kind of crew working for him, and as long as the money's coming in from all these rich, wealthy clients...
Yeah, he can pay the mercs too.
Yeah.
Or the mercs and the guards.
They can get everything done.
Cool. Yeah, so using your business sense to kind of get established where you want, that's I guess a possibility too. Also being an evil dirtbag.
Yep. I mean, it's another example of a fairly effective leader, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. You're right.
Which is becoming a really common theme between the places that are actually, like, thriving to some extent. It requires, like, a leader who
effective leadership.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, and Rivet City is by council kind of thing. Got all kinds of different flavors.
Yeah. And they had a bunch of specialists building it up and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's all I had for this cool kind of topic. So we've landed on and described different reasons as to why, including just the overall theme of Fallout as to why things aren't super advanced 200 years later. It's because there's a lot of conflict. It's because while there are a lot of different places, they are built up from what's left over, or improved based on what's left over, because that is generally easier. Different skill sets and different people, different situations in vaults, if they even survive. So
with the right people and resources, things are able to be built back up. But once things start being built up, you lose the ability to speak, and you feel very embarrassed. No, you then have big, nasty enemies come up and knock you down a few pegs.
Yeah.
So it's in kind of a cycle where the growth is slow, but it's getting up there. But as it keeps growing, it keeps getting knocked down and growing and knocked down and growing. So I think both of these Redditors were wrong. That's right. Turns out the middle ground is always correct.
Yep. We are 100% correct. Just like we said at the very beginning. No holes whatsoever. Neither of us are wrong.
Nope.
It's everyone else.
Yes.
So if you want to be wrong and also comment of the cast, please leave a comment about something that we probably mentioned.
Wow.
No, I'm sorry.
I love how you're being like, no one could ever think of something that we didn't first think.
That's so funny. But for real, if there's something that like we may have like glossed over, or something that we entirely missed for talking about why things aren't advancing as quickly as they should in the Fallout universe over 200 years, please leave a comment. It is actually a pretty interesting subject. We were able to talk about it for at least a little while.
I was able to use my brain at points.
Yeah, brains are
weird.
Weird, squishy. Okay, so things that we're doing. Sarge, what have you been up to, my friend?
Man, well, I'm technically on break at the moment, which is why the series isn't having new episodes out. Sorry, anyone who was enjoying my Fallout 5/Raiders of New York series. There will be more episodes. Probably by the time the next PIPCAST is out, there'll be another episode. Maybe.
Okay.
Give me another week or two and things will go on. I'm actually editing
when you're
today,
ready. When you're ready.
Yeah. But while I've been working on the stuff that's not coming out for a while, I've needed to play some New Vegas, because I needed to get footage of Yes Man.
Ah.
So I played a little bit of that, and I've got no desire to go back, which is a shame. I found a thing with me playing New Vegas now is there's not really much left for me to do which I haven't already done.
Yeah. I get that feeling too.
Yeah. And I think the start of the game especially reinforces it, because it's like, okay, my two options overall are sneak past the Deathclaws or go around the little loop the game wants you to go around. And it's like it's the same quest you pick up every time, unless you're doing like a kill everything run or a pacifist run. It doesn't really vary that much, especially not until the late game where you just go down which path for which ending. And if you've done a lot of playthroughs of New Vegas, there's not really many different ways to play. It does feel like just about every playthrough you are walking a path, and while there are lots of paths, it's not completely free in what you do to get through there.
I think too, it's been several playthroughs at this point to where once I get to the Repcon Novak thing, I'm just like, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
Because Repcon is It is not fun.
No.
I think at this point I just don't enjoy it because I don't know. I don't even know what it is, honestly. It's probably just dealing with the Nightkin. They're a pain to kill, so you have to like kind of weasel your way through it. Dealing
if
with
you're doing the full quest to get the ghouls out safely and stuff as well, there's several steps of go here, come back, go here, come back, go here, come
that's
back.
That's part. Okay, yeah, that's part of it too. Like having to bring them back so many things. The amount of like crafting loot that's that's just far enough away from Novak to be a huge pain if you're trying to transfer it. Yeah, it's I'm not a fan. It's a good set piece, but I'm not a fan after so many playthroughs.
I do think New Vegas is a really good game for like up to 10 playthroughs.
Yeah.
But then it falls off quite sharply, unfortunately. But it's alright, because I've been playing other things as well.
Oh, good.
Wonderlands had a little update.
Yeah.
There's now like the dream place where you just go through some basic levels and fight some enemies. It's not an amazing update, but once you've completed like the little here's the weekly session thingy, you get like new bosses and stuff in what's it called, the Chaos Chamber.
Yeah.
Which will be good over time.
Yep.
Although, to be fair, I've mostly stopped playing Wonderlands.
Same.
Like, it feels like a game that I'm going to go back to occasionally when I'm like, oh, I fancy a bit of a shooter action. But because I've done every single quest in the game, and not 100%ed it, there's still, like, luck loot dice for me to pick up, but that's, like, it for what I've got left to do that's, like, anything really worth doing. I'm kind of like, not too fussed. I feel like the game could have done with what Borderlands has with True Vault Hunter mode and Ultimate Vault Hunter mode.
I'm sure they will eventually.
I hope so. But you do get a difficulty at the start, which makes me wonder if they actually will.
Yeah. I don't know. I still kind of expect it.
I hope so.
But they were sharing that this is the Gearbox presentation. I think we said something about that. Where Randy Pitchford was saying that there's a surprising level of new players to this is their first quote Borderlands experience. Which is good. I am glad to see more players getting interested and like changing the difficulty to be that is more of a new player accessibility type thing.
Could well be the case, yeah.
Could be, but on top of that, they could still add, True Vault Hunter mode and that kind of stuff, like the heavy duty modifiers that come along with the better loot and stuff like that, because that's the driving force still is the better loot. And like once you collect all the loot dice, then what, right?
Yeah. I must admit, when I was younger, it was a lot easier to play Borderlands a lot more and be like, oh, I want to get this gun. And now I'm like, I've got other stuff to get on with. I'm an adult now. I can't be grinding loot all this time.
Yeah. Oh, or you just get bored. Because you've done it so many times now in your life.
Yeah. This is like, what, my 5th Borderlands game? It's a bit much.
Yeah.
The other game I've sunk a bunch of time into recently, and which I actually beat right before recording this PIPCAST, is Final Fantasy III.
What?
Because, I bought the Pixel Remaster bundle of Final Fantasies 1 through 6, because I enjoyed the Final Fantasy games, and I've now both played and beaten more Final Fantasy games than Fallout games, which is a thing. Yeah. 3 was great. I loved 1. I got 100% of the achievements. I did everything you can do in Final Fantasy 1. Great little game. 2, I wasn't as big a fan of. Like, it made a few changes that I was like, I don't like this too much. The leveling system was very odd, and I was like, well, I'm not huge into, so I just kind of got through it, and then I was like, okay, I've beat this. It's good to have it, like, ticked off. And then 3, I was a bit skeptical going in, but I really love it. It does a bunch of cool stuff that I enjoy. The job system starts changing out, you get a bunch of summons all of a sudden. It's like a really nice evolution in the Final Fantasy franchise. And about halfway through the game, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to 100% this one as well. And then I started working towards 100% completion, and then I found out I couldn't 100% it, because to get 2 of the items in the game, which are just like generic items for which you need for 100% completion, you need to do it at a very specific point when you have a character following you around. And I'd gone past that point, and there wasn't a save that I was using where I could go back to that point. So that was annoying. So I went from, I'm going to 100% complete this, to, let's just beat the game. Which I did. And my party as well. You were in it again, Caedo.
Thanks.
I made you the unarmed monk and then black belt who does lots of punching.
Yeah.
And I had myself as the red mage starting out, and then a thief. And I had Be'lakor, who was like my damaging magic. And finally, I had my Onion Knight for memes up until level 99, then a healer when I actually needed a 4th party member, who was Buttface.
Nice.
Because that's what you do when you can't think of a 4th name.
Yep. You make their name an insult.
Yeah. I mean, consistently now, I can make, like, the Sarge character, like, a versatile mage and a thief. And Caedo is obviously, punchy, which is always a thing in the Final Fantasy games. Those 2 are easy. It's if I have to name 2 more party members, I'm just like, oh no. What am I going to do here?
Also, as far as I know, monks have always been decent. Like, if I...
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there are classes, or jobs, whatever, that get progressively worse or weaker over
some of
time
them
as well.
Pretty bad. You get tons of them in Final Fantasy 3 as well, like way more than I could ever deal with. It's a bit ridiculous.
Most of my familiarity with jobs is Final Fantasy Tactics, and there are some that are just leaps and bounds better than others.
Yeah.
I mean, Calculator Summoner, for example, holy crap, dude. Oh my god.
See, I've got it inbuilt into my head that summoning's not very good, because 9 is like the game I kind of grew up with above all, and summoning in that's kind of like, meh, it's a long animation for not that much damage normally. But in several other games, it's like summoning's just overpowered, so
yeah,
I need to break out of that.
It makes me wonder if Calculator was used in any other, like, Final Fantasy besides Tactics and, like, Tactics Advance and stuff like that.
Almost certainly.
Yeah, because Calculator, man, feel like number crunching, that's what that job does. Like, if it, I don't remember the specifics of it. One of them was like, you'll cast this spell at this height or something like that. So you have to keep track of where the enemies are and what position they're in, and then once they hit that certain height on the map itself, then you can just unleash a whole bunch of damage on them. And multiple spells cast at once, because they can use they're a magic based class, but you have to, cross class with, I think it's one or two types of magic. It's just really cool.
I mean, the Final Fantasy series is one where every game starts out as, you can click the attack button to deal damage, or item to use a potion to restore health. And then at the end you're like, okay, what's 15,000 times by 742? I need to get my damage spread over this. It's just crazy how it goes from super simple to insanely complex.
Or really stupid, because in Final Fantasy VII, the one time I killed Ruby Weapon, I killed him with a coin. So, because I just ran out of everything else. It was still a long friggin' fight, but I killed him with coin, and I felt, I don't know if I felt super victorious about it, because I was just throwing money at him and doing damage.
That sounds fun.
It's ridiculous.
Anyway, I'm sure the next Pipcast I'll be able to tell everyone about Final Fantasy IV, because I am making my way through the games.
There you go.
Moderator Caedo?
Moderator Stark is also doing that. He's been
nice.
He's been going through in my Discord. That is, shout out to Stark. So you asked what I'm doing. Playing very similar things that I was last time that we had a had a podcast episode. Slowly making my way through Death Stranding. I still want to do at least one more video on it. But I needed to get to a certain spot where I could get more footage for the memory chip collectibles.
Alrighty.
Then It's like the most convenient time to be following the Death Stranding subreddit, because somebody posted a full map of all the like each area, because you start in the east, the central area is like the biggest spot, and the west is like kind of like the end game, like extra cinematic stuff. They had a map that contained all three of them without extra bullcrap on the map itself, and all of the memory chip locations. Like, they did it themselves. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I messaged them immediately, and I'm like, can I please use your map? Because I don't want to try to stitch one together this time. I don't want to do that. And they were like, yes, please use my map. And I'm like, just in case you decide to play Cyberpunk 2077 and you need a map, have mine. Because I did that, and you shouldn't. Don't do it. Because 3D maps, so awful. Okay, so Death Stranding is still fun. I'm really enjoying Director's Cut. But I'm getting to the point to where I've done most things when it comes to like setting up roads and whatnot. Like, there's just a few deliveries that I have to make that are like big ones that go like way far across the map. So you get in a truck and you drive real fast, as fast as you can, with a whole bunch of stuff in the back of the truck, and hopefully not get stuck somewhere or get hit by a stun spear from a random mule and jump out and have to fight them too. So there's that. Mules are bandits, by the way, for anybody who doesn't play Death Stranding.
No, they're animals, Caedo.
They are. It's an acronym. Kojima's obsessed with them, so it's an acronym for this case. Divinity Original Sin 2. Also been playing that still with Dakoba off and on. We found a really broken combo with spells that we hadn't done before. I built a character around finesse and using spears, but also with a little bit of pyrokinesis or pyrokinetic sprinkles. So fire spells on top of that, or pyromancy, whatever. It's fire. Pyro is fire word. We came across a troll, and there's a trick to them where you have to have them set on fire so they don't regenerate. And this is not D&D slow over time regenerate. This is, if they're not taking damage over time, they get all of their health back. So you need to apply fire ASAP so you can actually kill this troll. And it has thousands of health. So we're just like, okay, how do we do this? Like, you can start dialogue with it and make a deal and then kill another troll for it. That's probably less difficult, but we're just gonna kill everything, whatever. So I'm trying not to make it too complicated. You can polymorph things into chickens. You can rupture their tendons, which is a cruel combo that is well known at this point, because the chickens run away in random directions and ruptured tendons does damage as you move. So the chicken will run away and just continuously bleed out as it's just wasting all of its AP. I also learned that if something doesn't have magic armor, you can apply bleed fire, which causes enemies to bleed fire, as it's understood, but also take increased by 20% fire damage. So we had a chicken that I decided to set on fire. There was also some cursed ground nearby, which caused it to become necrofire, which is like fire you can't put out by normal means. So we chickened it, ruptured tendons. I caught it on fire, used bleed fire. It ran away into the cursed ground, caught on necrofire, and just died in the course of like 3 turns. And this is one of the most beefcake enemies in like the main area of Act 2. And we killed it by accident. That was entirely accident. I was like, I just want to try bleed fire. I want to see what it does, because obviously fire damage is what's keeping it from regenerating. And we've never killed a troll that fast. Like, it was awesome. Highly recommend. Also, yeah, polymorph and rupture tendons is broken. Also, again, I still have Valheim dedicated server. You can find it on my Discord server if you join. If you want to play some Valheim, we're getting some more information on the Mistlands, the next biome that's going to open up. They're getting closer to releasing that, so that's something to look forward to. And also, obviously, I'm doing a Fallout 2 playthrough. I've been playing some Fallout 2. I got done with the new Reno families. Like, that part is finished. Now I have to decide what to do after dying twice. Well, teammates dying twice to the Raiders. And then beating up the Raiders and winning. And yeah, deciding what to do next after that. I also got Myron on the team and, you know, did enough dialogue to make sure everybody knows how much of a dirtbag, a horrible person he is. So that's about where I'm at with recording episodes and stuff like that. I'm up to like episode 69. Nice. That I've got edited together, ready for next month. So,
do you have a rough idea of how many episodes you think it's going to end up being?
I think it's going to be over 100.
Over 100, man.
Or close to
be
it.
A lot. I mean, that's going to keep you busy for most of the way till Starfield.
Because I have 2 big locations to go through, big dungeon locations to go through. No, sorry, 3 big dungeon locations to go through still.
Okay, that's going to be a while, yeah.
Mariposa, the freaking Sierra Army Depot, as well as the Enclave main base. I mean, you can count Navarro in that, so that's 4. But Navarro, you can choose whether or not you want to kill everyone. So, which we might. We'll see. Navarro is an ordeal, especially on the top side of it, because they've got plasma turrets, I believe, as well as all the Enclave soldiers hanging out.
Fun.
So, and like turrets are easy to avoid in the first-person games because you just hide behind a wall, right?
Yeah.
Not so much.
It's great.
Not so much in the classic games. Yeah. Not so much. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. Mostly that. And so thank you for listening and watching whatever B-roll we have running for the PIPCAST. Hope to catch you all next episode 2 weeks from now, 10 a.m. Pacific on a Sunday, where we'll probably talk about more of the gamer stuff. We'll see. If you have suggestions, like suggest an article, but don't link it because it'll go to spam. But suggest an article from the gamer, and we might, consider it if it's good enough for discussion topics. So keep that in mind. Until then, you all take care of yourselves. Bye. Sarge, say bye.
No.
Okay. Sarge said bye.
I didn't.